Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter. Thanks for joining me for part two of our Las Vegas Raiders projected 53-man roster for 2025. I mentioned to you on Wednesday when we did part one. Today we're going to do part two. Tomorrow we'll do part three. I mentioned to you that uh, obviously I expect that there's going to be at least one, as many as three players that aren't on the roster presently that will be here um, as we approach um, the start of the regular season. So please keep that in mind. I do think that the Raiders would absolutely pull the trigger on the right deal, 100%. I believe that, know that. So it's just going to be a matter of whether or not the right deal comes their way. If you missed Wednesday's podcast, I would suggest you go back and do it. But for now, let's just dig in on part two. We're going to talk defense today. And if you're going to talk defense in the National Football League, let alone the Silver and Black Raider Nation, you start with the best defensive player in all of the National Football League, and that's Max Crosby. He is a man of great integrity off the field, a tremendously successful businessman, owns several multi-million-dollar businesses, as well as he's a tremendous father, outstanding father, a great husband, and a wonderful friend. Max Crosby, I'll tell you this right now, and and I mean this respectfully because he's not disingenuous. You see the tats, you see the fiery personality, and that is absolutely genuine when that is who he is when it comes to competition, competing, whether it's who can eat a pizza the fastest, who can win the sprint, who can sack the quarterback when it comes to anything competitive. I think if he was playing his beautiful little girl in checkers, he's going to be the same way. It's just his nature. He obviously married a very beautiful woman who is a tremendous athlete in and of herself. He loves to compete. It is just who he is. He has that switch. I have had the privilege in my life of having a very close view of him and Irvin. Many of you know that Magic Johnson is from where I'm from. Our sisters played basketball together. Um, just known Irvin and his family a lot. In fact, just literally recently saw when I was back in Michigan one of his family members, and so um, I've had it, and then I've also had, although I wouldn't call it a front row seat, multiple interactions with Michael Jordan. Got a chance on three occasions to actually watch him practice. And then um, I've had multiple interactions with Michael, but I've got to watch him practice three times. And then Kobe, I got to watch him practice once, and I'm going to say I had 4 or 5 interactions with him. And when I say interactions, it isn't just like a quick press scrum. I was around him a little bit. And I can tell you that the great ones, Barry Sanders, um, had some of this, not even all of it. I mean, he was able to just walk away from the game and because it wasn't fun for him anymore. These type of guys need competition. It's why many of them become supremely successful businessmen because they're able to channel that competitiveness into other areas. Barry had some of the qualities, but not all of the ones. And I think he's the greatest running back of all time. Him or Jim Brown. But you you didn't even see him bury what you saw in Irvin and Max and Kobe and Jordan. Max sets the absolute standard for this football team. He is the first man in the building, oftentimes long before coaches. He is the last guy to leave. He does all of his treatments. He watches more film. Um, in fact, I haven't had a chance to ask him about this, um, but I don't even know if I should tell you this story until okay, never mind. I'm not going to, but I have something I've got to ask him about. I heard something hilarious about him, about his competitive nature. Let's just say he watches a ton of film and everything that Max does is at a standard. Okay. He's a father at a standard. He's a husband at a standard. He is a businessman at a standard. He's a defensive end as a standard. Um, he, without being specific, because some of this I can't, I will tell you this. He will hold coaches accountable. He is not afraid to walk into a coach's office, and I won't use his verbiage, but to ask uh, tough questions. He's not afraid to hold a coach accountable. And coaches like Pete Carroll love that. Some coaches take total offense because they think respect comes with the title. There is a certain amount of respect that comes with the title. But then there's a certain amount of respect you have to earn. I tell dads all the time, you're going to have certain respect because you're a father and you're there when you are there, meaning if you're a present father, there's a certain amount of respect that comes with that. But then they reach a certain age and you got to earn it now. You don't just get it because you're dad. You have to earn it. You have to continue to earn it. And that's Max. And that's same. But he holds coaches to that standard. I will tell you, he has a tremendous relationship with Mark Davis. Tremendous relationship. And it's not anything fake. It is the genuine real deal. They sincerely like and respect each other. And he would not be afraid, nor would Mark be afraid to be very truthful with each other. I think it's why they both get along so well, is they both appreciate just bluntness. I will tell you the way to get to Mark Davis's heart is not to sit there and placate to him. He's extremely smart, and smart people don't like that. That's the same way with Max. He doesn't like it, doesn't appreciate it. And so he sets the standard. He is the gold standard of this football team. Um, I've shared this with you before, but Tom Izzo, the Hall of Fame basketball coach at Michigan State, and a very good friend of mine, I'll never forget. We were sitting on in his basement, and he has a well, it doesn't matter, but we were in his basement, and we were. It was shortly after he had turned down the Cleveland Cavaliers job. When LeBron was there, they offered him the job to be the head coach, and our conversation was nothing to do with LeBron. So don't read into what I'm about to say with LeBron. I'm just giving you the time frame. And he was talking to me about player coach teams and how they're the best. When you have players that hold each other accountable, that coach each other, that set a standard, it's the best. And I'll never forget, we got on the subject of Irvin, and he talked about that's what made Irvin great. He was the first in, last out. He never asked his teammates to do anything that he didn't do. Um, I have a really good friend who played for the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan. And Matt told me one time how, you know, everyone, it wasn't, he didn't think it was fear, but everyone had such immense respect for Michael in that, if Michael wanted you to work out, he was already working out. And he just would say that it was just, with Michael, you couldn't ignore what he was doing. With Michael, you couldn't pretend he wasn't in there doing everything he was asking you to do. And Matt said, he goes, it was the most phenomenal thing he had ever experienced was watching Jordan perform at the level that Jordan performed. And he said he just made the entire team because they're like, well, if he's doing it. And so, anyways, Izzo and I were talking about, Irvin, and he talked about how, Judd Heathcote, who was the legendary Michigan State coach that took Michigan State to a national title with Irvin. Tom was, an assistant on that team or a part of that team, not as a player. And actually, it was after that, but Tom had been around Irvin a lot. But Tom talked about how Irvin used to tell him Judd would get on him. And Tom asked Judd about that one time. And he's like, of course, Tom, I'm going to get on Irvin. If they'll see that I'll rip the blank off of my very best player and the best player in America, do it to them. And I'm going somewhere with all this. This isn't rambling. That is Max. Max wants to be coached. He wants Robbie Leonard in his grill screaming at him. He can take it. He craves it. The very best love it. They love it. They crave it. And, I always tell this to parents. Your children want discipline. They want structure. No, you don't know my kids, man. They're wild. No, they do. So the Bible says that who the Lord loves, he disciplines. Discipline means, hey, I love you. Be careful. This is important. Fix this in your life. I'll never forget. I've shared this story with you before. I've lost over 200 pounds. But I wrote a story once about a player who was overweight, and his coach literally made him get on the scales in front of the media. And I wrote about this player, and I talked about, a lack of discipline. That night, I get a call from my dad, who was my hero, and he said, "Hey, buddy, can you stop by my house tonight?" I said, "Sure." And I walked in his house, went in his office, he shut the door. And he said to me, whether it was on the athletic field or the academic area of your life, or as a husband and a father, he said, "I've always been proud of you. I've always loved you. I've always, hunting, fishing, sports, work, marriage, children." He goes, "Always been proud of you." He goes, "Today's the first day that I'm not proud of you." And I looked at my dad and I'm like, "What are you talking about? My career's doing well. I've got wonderful children, happily married. What's going on? What do you mean you're not proud of me?" And he handed me my article that I wrote. And he said, "I understand you didn't get to be a large human because you're lazy." He said, "I know the circumstances of what happened." He goes, "But when you're over 400 pounds and you're writing about other people lacking discipline," he goes, "don't do that." And I walked out of my dad's house that night and determined I would get my weight completely under control. And that wasn't my dad being rude. It was him loving me. And so what happens is when you have your star players that want that, if you see one thing in Max Crosby's game, one little tiny thing that can make him a third of a percent better, and you don't give it to him, he will never respect you as a coach. He wants that. And so what happens is on teams that want to be great, Geno Smith, to his credit, wants that kind of coaching. So you got your best offensive player, your best defensive player, who can both be coached at a very high level. You now set the standard for your team. Max just isn't the best player on the Raiders. He's not just the best defensive player in the NFL. Max is your North Star. He is, your true north. He sets the standard for the entire team. Let's make this very clear. This is Max Crosby's team, period. Mark Davis may own it. He may have some minority owners. John Spytek may be the GM. Pete Carroll may be the coach. This is Max Crosby's team. And he knows that. He understands that. And it's not too big of a moment for him. I have seen really good players, when a team becomes their team, who crumble, cannot handle the pressure. Um, all eyes on Max. Every guy in that locker room gets their cue on how to handle a situation. Uh, I'm not going to tell you the situation because I have not asked permission to do that. But there was a time in the Raiders since Max has been here, and let's just say it's been in the last 4 years, where there was a moment in a team meeting. I don't know if it was in the locker room or a meeting or where it was at, but I don't know if it was at a hotel, but they were in a meeting. And the moment could have been very charged, and it could have gotten bad quick. And as soon as the incident happened, everybody looked at Max. And his reaction diffused the entire locker room. That is what leadership does. That is what changes leadership. You're out at practice and somebody's not giving 110% and wants to get lazy and run off at the mouth. Okay, you're going to deal with Max now. You're going to deal with Max. And you want to give less than maximum effort, he will embarrass you and doesn't care. And this is a guy that 2 years ago played when he literally risked his life because the team was still in playoff contention. He's true north. I have seen some really good teams that didn't have that guy, that struggled because it's not every day. Every day in the National Football League has pressure, but not every day in the National Football League do you got to have that. Sometimes you can have a collaboration of captains, but once, twice, maximum 3 times a year, there will be a moment, sometimes in the offseason, sometimes in the playoffs, sometimes in the regular season, doesn't matter. There will be a moment when the team looks at that guy and the balance of the season rests on how does he handle this? I have had people email me and say, I wish Max would shut his mouth. He doesn't want to shut. Listen, you don't know Max and you sound foolish because I'm going to tell you one thing about Max. He is, people see the tats and the smile and the cigars and the toys and whatever, and they think, oh, he's just what? No, winning is fun to him. And so he is super smart, super smart. In fact, this may shock some of you because of what you perceive. He is one of the smartest people that I know. Tremendous business acumen. That's why when, last off season he talked about, I have no guaranteed money and I've got to decide, do I want to be part of what's going on here or whatever? And people are like, oh, he's just playing for money. No, let me just tell you something. First of all, there's nothing wrong with that. I work for money. You work for money. If you don't work for money, you should get a job. Max owns all these other multi-million-dollar businesses. Max Crosby, if he were to walk away from the game today, would never be able to spend all of the money that he has. Does he want more? Of course he does. We all do. He wants to start other businesses. There's other things he'd like to do. But if you think that is what motivates him, you have no clue. Irvin, I mean, he grew up in a family that worked hard, middle-class family. And his parents, by the way, precious human beings. I wish all of you could meet Irvin's parents. You would understand why Irvin is Irvin if you knew his parents. Wonderful, precious. His mom was incredibly godly woman, and they're just wonderful people, salt of the earth people. They love their son, Irvin. And for those of us that have known him and back home in Michigan, he's Irvin to us. But they never were in love with him because he was a celebrity. They loved him. And and Irvin, and this may shock you, absolutely wanted to be paid every dime he was worth. There's nothing wrong with that. But Irvin never did anything going into it. What is going to be my financial? It was all about the money. He opened businesses in the inner city in places that weren't opening businesses. And it wasn't, gee, I'm going to go in there and make billions. I want to serve my community. And I want them to partner with me and see, I'm coming down here. A lot of people won't. And he's been rewarded because he didn't chase the bucks. He chased the vision. He chased purpose. He chased planning. Money follows that. When you chase money, you're going to fail. But money follows preparation, purpose, planning, and going on. And so that's Max. And so he sets the standard of true north for this franchise. And it's why he can host a SAC summit and everybody comes. It's why, you know, he has a birthday party for his daughter and everybody shows up. It's because it's Max. There's just some things that are different. And so you start with him on this football team. And when you have that guy, there will come a day when Max will be at the end of his career, when he's not going to be as good as he is now. And I'll tell you this, and I am his friend, and that's no secret. Max Crosby will not cheat the game. The moment Max believes I can't give you everything that I was destined to give on a football field, he'll walk away. So as long as he puts pen to contract, and as long as he shows up and puts that jersey on, you don't have to question Max Crosby. Max loves football. He doesn't like it. He loves it. And he respects it. And he won't cheat the game. And I'm going to tell you another thing. He loves the fans. That ain't a joke either. It's legit. And he won't cheat you. The Raiders, whenever you start a roster projection and you're able to say Max Crosby, it's good. The next player I have, and of course, Max a lock, and the next guy that's going to a lock to make this team is Malcolm Koonce. Tremendous kid, could have gone some other places. I shared with you last year, so first couple of years he doesn't do much, and McDaniels gets fired, and AP, one of the best things he did, and he did several good things, he unleashed Patrick Graham to do whatever he wanted with the defense. And you saw Patrick Graham turn Malcolm Koonce into an absolute beast. Now credit Malcolm because it was in him. And he finally had somebody that just him and Robbie Leonard just recklessly believed in Malcolm, and Malcolm took off. And then all off season last year, he was not coasting on what he had done. He was getting better. And then days before the season, he went down. Brutal. This guy has worked his tail off with reckless abandon. Now, the Raiders' plan, the previous regime, was to give him a 1-year prove-it deal. And once he showed back on the field that he was playing like he had in 23, give him a long-term deal. That was the plan. Then everybody gets blown out and fired. They bring in new people. And I started to say to you, the question is going to be, will the Raiders up their offer, or does he end up going? Or will they stick with the 1-year prove-it deal? I can tell you for a fact, Koonce could have went other places and gotten a longer deal and gotten what some would have thought was a better deal. I know of 3 teams that were greatly interested, and I think there were more, but there are 3 that I know factually, okay? And Koonce bet on himself. He bet on the Raiders. He says, "No, these people wanted me. They drafted me. They believed in me. If I go out here and prove myself, I'm going to get that big money deal. I want to be here." If you're a Raider fan and that doesn't get your fire going, your wood's wet. I mean, this guy says, "I believe in me. I believe in this franchise. I believe in what we're doing. I believe in me." And he bet on himself. Now, you may hate Kirk Cousins. You may love Kirk Cousins. I know Kirk Cousins well. And one of the things going back to Holland Christian High School that I have always loved about Kirk is at every level of his career, he has always bet on himself. And that is why, whether you love him or hate him, he has made hundreds of millions of dollars playing this game. Because if you go back and study his career, he has always bet on himself and he's always made bank. Now, that sounds stupid when an old man like me says it, but that's a new term the kids are using for made a lot of money. And he's always made bank. Koonce did that. If you are a Raider fan and you don't like Malcolm Koonce, I secretly think you're a Chiefs fan. This kid bet on your team and he bet on himself. I'm going to say this to you right now because you guys know this. I've always said this. I am not a fan of specific teams. I'm a fan of people. Okay. There is nobody rooting for Malcolm Kuntz to get a massive deal next year more than me. Maybe his mom. And but I first of all, I genuinely really like Malcolm, the person, but I like people that got a little bit of rugged individualism. I like a guy that says, "Screw you, I'm betting on myself. I'm moving all in, man. I'm taking all my chips and putting them in the middle of the table, and I'm betting on me, not because he's arrogant." In fact, if you knew Malcolm, you wouldn't even think of the word arrogant. He's just, uh, my son is a junior in college, and he uses this term. I love this term. It means, it doesn't mean relaxed like you don't care. It just means like confident. It's called chill. My son is loves that word. Oh, that guy's chill. Um, I'm not trying to sound like a kid, but for most of us that are older, you won't know that term, but it really fits for Malcolm, and especially at his age. He's chill. It's like, okay, that's cool. I don't have a problem if you don't like me. I don't have a problem if you don't think I can do it. I know I can. And he's not arrogant about it. Love Malcolm Kuntz. Love him. And I'm going to tell you another thing. You watch him with Max, and Max loves him. Max loves him like it's his little brother. And I'm going to tell you this, if he blows up this year and has a massive year and gets a huge deal, Max is going to be his biggest fan. He may make him buy dinner, but that's just Max. It's that goes back to that true north. He wants his teammates doing better. It isn't, oh, gee, he got paid. I'm not. That's why Max, as long as there's guaranteed money, lots of people now have bigger deals than Max. He's not going to go back there and try to renegotiate. And Malcolm Kuntz does not have a bigger fan on this team than Max Crosby, Robbie Leonard, and Patrick Graham, the three amigos. Love me some Malcolm Kuntz, and he's a lock. The third defensive end that I have making the team is Tyree Wilson. A guy that's taken a ton of criticism unfairly, and I'm going to put that right out there, and I could care less if you disagree with me or not. Don't give a flying rat's rear end. If people that are being, oh, he sucks, he's terrible, you have no clue about the game of football. You probably said the same thing about Gino. And I'm going to tell you the reason I feel that way is not because I'm thinking I'm a football savant, but around the National Football League, I've asked people. So he comes into the league with a major injury. Every team knew if you picked him, he's not going to be ready in 2022. Excuse me, in 2023. He's not going to be ready. And he was hurt the entire year. Raiders management, when they tipped me off that they may be looking at him depending on how the draft board fell, I asked, because that's a major injury that there are a lot of people that don't come back from. And they said, nope, we've had our doctors look. We're 100% convinced he'll come back. He's got the work ethic, great kid, but the first year is going to be a red shirt. Okay. Obviously, what happens with Chandler Jones, he had to play. Okay. And if you judged his play by what you saw in film, he was not good as a rookie. I don't have a problem with that. He wasn't. He would tell you that, but he shouldn't have even been playing. He shouldn't have. Towards the end of the year, when he's 70, 75%, Patrick Graham moves him inside a defensive tackle to get some work on his hands, and he actually was okay, not great, but okay. You say, well, you shouldn't get picked where you got and be okay. Okay, okay. But it was a year they knew he shouldn't have been playing. I mean, some of y'all need to just relax a little bit. It's like we live in a world, we just want to have such a hot take that, oh, I just want to be so negative and have such a hot take so I can say, I called it. Well, you can say that about every draft. Out there somewhere, somebody's saying, Ashton Jeanty's going to suck. I called it. And he might. Not every first round guy pans out. but it's because you're lucky, not because you're knowledgeable. Tyree may not pan out. I raised those concerns about his injuries, but the Raiders were convinced there's nothing to be concerned about. Okay. And I talked to other teams that shared the sentiment. Okay. But just because you're lucky doesn't mean you're good. And so he comes in last year. And if you looked at last year as his rookie year, he left 7 sacks on the table. Robbie Leonard and I just talked about that. If you look at last year as his rookie year, he's just learning those skill sets. You ain't going to teach his speed. You ain't going to teach his bend. You ain't going to teach his length. You ain't going to teach his athleticism. That's stuff that only comes from God, man. And I certainly didn't get it. And neither did most of you. He is a precious kid. I genuinely just think the world of Tyree Wilson. He is a super young man. Super young man. He is one of the most kindest hearted people that you ever meet. Uh, Big smile that lights up a room like Delmar DJ Glaze the Mule. Just a guy that uh, cares about people, genuinely cares about people. I last year, to give you just a little thing, I talked to Tyree a lot because I like him. And I don't remember how the conversation went. And we got done and I started walking away. He goes, "Hey, how are you?" I said, "Good. Thanks for asking." All right. And we just chatted about something. And I mean, he is that guy. If there's a new guy in the locker room, he's gonna make that guy feel like, "Hey, we're glad you're here. Yep, you may have replaced one of our friends, but that's not your fault." Tyree Wilson is a guy that you run into him at the gas station and your kid walks up, he's gonna absolutely stop, talk to your family. He's a guy that thinks it's an absolute privilege. I mean, listen, I've seen some guys play for this team that didn't see wearing that helmet as the honor as it is. There's a reason that I was willing to move to Vegas and cover the Raiders. They are the standard bearer. Are they right now? No. But you look over the pantheon of decades of the NFL, that Raider insignia and logo means something. And Tyree, man, every time he puts that helmet on, great appreciation. He has been coached hard and takes it and takes it. In fact, I'll say this right now. He cares almost too much because when he screws up, he feels like he let everybody in the world down. And I think that if you look at last year as his rookie year, which I do, you want guys that care. You want guys that care. Now, he may not pan out, but I talked with a lot of NFL people this year, especially at the I don't remember which owners meeting it was, but there was one in particular. I spoke to probably 10 or 15 people. I said, could you just off the record give me your thoughts on Tyree? And they're like, yeah, what a year. I mean, you looked at 24 like his rookie year, and man, he looked really good. I know for a fact that he terrorized and made Patrick Mahomes extremely uncomfortable. And had his technique been better, but when you look at his rookie year, he would have been a terrorizer. And the Raiders are very fortunate. Now, again, he may not pan out. We're only looking at a rookie year here, but he has all the intangibles. We don't know if he's going to be a superstar. He's got all the intangibles to do it. He's got all of the will. And if he stays healthy, he'll get there. But man, the way people just berate him. Remember what I said? You may get lucky. You may get lucky and your take be right, but it doesn't mean you were right. It means you were lucky because around the NFL, major intriguing guy. Now, There were several teams that looked at him like the Raiders did as a dude. There were several that, because of the injury, would not have picked him as high. But there was no team that was not on the Tyree Wilson train. And some people need to just give the kid a break. And if you get on your social media and you want to attack Tyree Wilson, you're really cool from your mom's basement, but you better get a ladder if you want to go do it to his face. The only difference is he's classy and he would just look at you and walk away. But that kid, he's giving maximum effort and he's a wonderful kid. I'm going to support it. And if he doesn't work out, I'm going to still say wonderful kid, great work ethic, bad pick by the Raiders because of the injury. It didn't pan out. But I will never attack the character of that kid. And it is far too early to call that kid anything other than what he is, a good rookie year. And all the intangibles. Interesting guy there. If this, again, remember year 3 is when you make the biggest adjustment. So that would be the 26 season. But I expect him to continue this year. But I will tell you this, I would stand toe to toe defending Tyree Wilson, the human being, to anybody. Precious kid. And I say kid, and I don't mean that disrespectfully of him. He is a good person. And any one of you that want to, if you want to say, I think it was a bad pick, that's fair. You want to say, with that injury, the Raiders made a dumb pick picking him that high. Okay. That's not personal. I don't even think that would bother him. But he's dumb. He's dumb. He's terrible. He sucks. He's horrible. Really? Somebody you don't even know. Dumb. Next, this is the 4th defensive end I think is going to make this team. And certainly this is going to be a battle. I think Tyree is not a lock to make it because there could be somebody that would come and be willing to pay something of value, but you're going to have to pay his value. But Snowden, so I think he's close to a lock, but not a lock. Snowden, I don't have him as a lock at all or close to a lock. I think it's a 52% chance he makes the roster. But because he's over 50, I got him on here. I think Charles Snowden, I like this young man. I like his game, his size, his bend. I just like the way he does it, and I like him personally. That doesn't hurt. But I know that there has been a mistake in his past, and all of us have them. Thank God we all have a past, but thank God even more we all have a future. I'm not willing to throw a Charles Snowden away. I think this young man absolutely is a player in the National Football League. And I think he could develop into something. Do I think he could be a max? I don't. Do I think his ceiling is Malcolm? I don't. Do I think his ceiling would be Tyree healthy? No. But I think this is a guy, a 10-year guy that could play 10 years in this league and be a very quality, good player. And I think he's a good kid. So I got Charles Snowden on, and not because I think he's a good kid. That's not why I have him making the team. There's some guys I don't think are going to make it that are good guys. But I'm just adding that for context. Next guy, and again, the Raiders expect him to be healthy by the start of the season. And if that is the case, Christian Wilkins, lock. Tremendous talent. When he is playing healthy, he is one of the top 3 defensive tackles in the league, an elite player. And again, the Raiders expect him back by the start of the regular season. So I've got him on the roster. And should the injury go a little bit, obviously he wouldn't make it. He would go on IR. But this is a guy, when healthy, he is a demonstrative force on the defensive line. The next guy I got, who's a lock, gonna make this roster. Tonka Hemingway. This is the first rookie that we've talked about today on the defense. Tonka Hemingway. He does a lot now. And I'm going to tell you, all of this rookie class has really grabbed a hold of their coaches, but those defensive coaches, they really like them some Tonka. Go back and watch my interview with Robbie Leonard. Just watch how his face. This is the thing I love about Robbie, and if you knew him, you would understand this. First of all, awesome person, just a great guy. His players, he is so hard on his players, and you can't be like that and have the relationship with his players if you don't love them. But Robbie doesn't hide anything. He's got this sly little look when he's trying not to say something. And if you know him well, you kind of know the look. You just go back and watch the video of him talking about Tonka Hemingway. But Tonka, I think he has a shot at being really good in this league for a long time. Really good for a long time. Um, you got to go. I don't even know how far back you have to go to find a defensive tackle uh, that the Raiders picked as a rookie. You got to go back a while that had the kind of upside Tonka does. And then the third defensive tackle I have making the team is Adam Butler. And just a full disclosure, just like with Max, I'm very good friends with Adam. Um, I he does not have Max's demonstrative personality, but he is as committed. He is a guy that takes players under his wings. He mentors. He helps guys in their marriages. He helps them with their finances. He helps them in every area. He is like the consummate leader that you need in that locker room. Um, if the next person that has a bad word about Adam Butler will be the first I've ever heard. I can think of one that may, but that's because Adam called him out. Um, he is willing to help any of those young guys. I a lot of times will visit with Adam in the locker room just because of our friendship, and those young defensive linemen just huddle around us, and it's not because of me. It's just I always tease him. I call him Bishop Butler, um, just because they all huddle around him. They want his wisdom. They want to learn the game from him. But Adam Butler makes the Raiders better. And what I think is really cool, and it doesn't surprise me because I know his character, is the respect that he shows Max, and then the respect Max shows him. Adam Butler. And so you look at Christian and Adam as your starters, and then all of a sudden you're looking at this and you're thinking, all right, nice little group here. Now, the fourth defensive tackle that I think could make this team, there are three guys battling this. And Jonah Lalu, did some things last year and he's done some things this offseason. I think he's the guy that's going to make it. But Tank Booth is a guy I think that's got a chance. So if Tank really turns it on in training camp, I think maybe. But you look at Adam Butler, Tonka, and Christian are your first three of your four defensive tackles, and they're all locks. So there's only one spot, and I think Jonah Lalu is the one leading that. I think Zach Carter is another guy that could get it. Does some interesting stuff. And Tank Booth, could you hide Tank Booth on the practice squad? Don't know. I don't know. Not certain about that one at all. But I have Lalu being the guy making it there. Then you turn to corner, Jacorian Bennett. You may remember 2 years ago started out strong his rookie year and then faded. I think it was a confidence issue because it's hard when you've been the big dog forever and then all of a sudden you're getting burned and you're not used to it. And it's a growth process. Nate Hobbs, 100% disagreed with me. Not in an arrogant way at all. He's a great guy. Just he told me, he goes, no, I don't think it was confidence. And neither did and Jacorian didn't feel that way. But I told you all last offseason he was going to burst on the scene last year, and he did. Until he got injured, he was playing outstanding. This year 3 is his money year. He has to stay healthy for an entire year. He's a real deal, but he needs to stay healthy this entire year if he's going to make bank and set him up for generational wealth. Most people don't know it. With your first contract, unless you're a first rounder, you make good money, but it's not generational. You make really, really good money, but it's not generational. But that second contract can usually be generational wealth. And he's got that shot, but he's got to stay healthy this year. Next, another corner to Cameron Richardson. Decam. I did some really good things last year. I thought he had a really good rookie year. See, this is where sometimes people, and I understand fandom, this comes from fanatics, but this is where sometimes people don't understand the dynamics of what's going on. Is there is a process here. Yes, they make a lot of money. Yes, you look at them as, well, they're pros and they're on TV and they're all, but they're still not completed projects. Just go back to Geno. Early in his career, everybody wanted to throw him away. Now he's a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the National Football League. Look at you as a person. Your first 2 years out of school, were you the best that you are now? Of course not. And if you're young right now and you're struggling, don't let that disparage you from your dreams. You keep dreaming big. I can tell you with Dexter, I'm a much better father than I was earlier in my life. It's not even comparable. In fact, Shannon and I were at dinner with friends last night, and we talked about that. I feel like I owe my older children a massive apology. I just didn't know what I didn't know. So let some of these kids grow up. But DCAM, I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer on this kid. He showed me some spunk last year. I heard a funny story about him. He had had a rough game and he got caught. Someone caught him in the film room after practice late. He was still in there watching film. And he has strong want to. I like DCAM. Then another guy I expect to make this roster, and I think this is going to surprise a few of you. Do I think he's a lock? No. Do I think he could be beat? I do. But if I had to pick today, do I think anyone's going to beat him? I don't. Say, who is that guy, Uncle Hondo? Sam Webb. Sam Webb is one of those guys. You know, there's an old adage in sports that when you're a really good team and you're playing a bad team, don't let a bad team hang around because you're playing down to your level of competition. Just put your foot on their throat and crush them. Because if you keep them around the fourth quarter, they just find energy, they find hope. Sam Webb is a guy that every time you write him off and think, okay, this guy's done, he just finds a way. He just keeps grinding. If there was a quintessential Raider Nation kind of player, just a grinder, just a guy that just sticks around, keeps growing, keeps getting better, it's Sam Webb. And I think he's got a shot at making this roster, a good shot. I absolutely would not be shocked if he got beat. I wouldn't. I think he's got a good shot in sitting here today, early in the month of June. Based on who's on the roster right now, I project Sam Webb to make the team. And again, I think that they're going to take, I want to look here. I think the Raiders are going to keep 6 corners. So that's the first 3. The other corner I got him keeping, Eric Stokes. This young man has played really, really well, got injured, just never really fully recovered. They think he's recovered now. If he plays like he did as a rookie, this will be the steal free agent of the 2025 National Football League free agent class. And we're going to see. There was very little risk when you look at his contract for the Raiders. There's all upside here. If he makes the team, Raiders stole him. If they don't, no loss. But this is a guy that people threw away, and we're going to find out. Does he have that gut, the grind? All right, these guys believed in me. My old team was willing to let me go, even though they saw what I did. All right, let the grinding begin. But Eric Stokes. Next is another rookie who is a lock to make this team. I like this kid, Darian Porter. He's special now. Him and Jacorian, Cameron. Man, the Raiders are so young at corner. It's clearly a weakness because of youth, but man, there is some talent here, ladies and gentlemen. There are some football players here now. Football players. Then you turn around, and the last position I think that's going to still be a battle, Darnay Holmes and Mello Dotson, the rookie, for that corner spot. That's the sixth corner. I want to say Mello, but I just think there are just some things in his game that got to be worked on. I'm going to give the edge to Darnay, but I would not be shocked if Mello Dotson, the rookie, got it. But for my projection today, I'm going with Darnay Holmes. Six corners right there. Now we turn our attention to linebackers. And I'm going to be very blunt with you. This is a part of the team that wouldn't surprise me, just like corner, if there was a trade here to accumulate some talent. Doesn't mean there isn't some young guys with a lot of potential and some veterans here, but it would have to be someone that fits the criteria of trading, which I've talked to you about before. The first guy is a complete lock. Matter of fact, the first two guys are locks to make this roster. Elandon Roberts. It was devastating to the Raiders to lose Robert Spillane. I know for a fact Robert wanted to stay here. I know this is where he wanted to be. And it ended up not happening. But Robert was an unquestioned leader on this team, a captain. He was Patrick Graham on the field. I cannot explain to you how big of a loss it was. The Raiders were able to go back to the Steeler well again and get Elandon Roberts. Is he Robert Spillane? No, he is not. But man, he is a balm on the injury of losing Robert Spillane. Terrific football player. Absolutely gifted football player who has a real unique ability on the field. He's got great leadership qualities and terrific man. This was, I don't know Elandon personally, but I have close personal friends who know him super well and love him. In fact, the moment I heard that the Raiders were even considering signing him was when someone in Pittsburgh texted me and said, I think you guys are going to end up with Elandon, and he's a great guy. You're going to love him. So Elandon Roberts is a great addition. He's a great leader. That's a fact. He is a great leader, and he's going to bring a lot to this. Is he not Robert Spillane? No, but he has to be Elandon Roberts. He doesn't have to be Robert Spillane. The next guy is Devin White. This is a guy played at a very high level in Tampa for Spytech, went through some stuff, and they believe he's healthy, ready to come back to his old form. Now, if he doesn't, It's not a waste of a signing. They didn't overpay for him. And if he does, it's just a no-lose situation for the Raiders. A very good person, high moral character, a great leader. He's going to help a lot of those young bucks, those young linebackers grow up. Him and Landon Roberts bring leadership to that room, and that's your starting linebackers. Then you come to a guy that's entering his sophomore campaign. Remember, it's not his money year. We're talking about Tommy freaking Eichenberg. Very tough. First of all, great guy as well as a Landon and Devin. Great personal character as a person. Very, very good player. I think he's going to back up this year, but I think he's going to play a lot more. And eventually, I don't know that it'll happen this season, but work himself into taking one of these slots and being able to play at a very high level. This is a guy, again, not a money year. So you certainly expect him in year 1 to 2 to make a step up. And then you expect him to move into either demonstrating that he's a quality backup or a starter in year 3, the money year. By the end of year 3, you know what you have. Hey, this guy's a starter. Hey, this guy's going to be a quality backup. And I think he's going to start as a quality backup. But I think you're going to see a different Tommy Eichenberg at the end of the year than you see at the beginning. I love the freak. That's what I call him, is Tommy freaking Eichenberg. He is the epitome of toughness. He plays the game of football like he's angry at the field. Again, very similar to a lot to Jackson Powers Johnson, not a gregarious personality like Jackson, although I have a great relationship with him. But he is on the field, he just plays mean, and he's really not, and he's just a wonderful person. The next one I want to talk to you about, you all know I'm big on this guy. I am not on the train. I'm driving it. Choo choo. Amari Gainer. Now, he has to, this is his second year, so it's not like he's even in his money year. Has some tendencies of a Carl Banks, and he's intrigued this staff. He is intrigued Patrick Graham. Like, there may be a little something there. And, this is important when you get past the ones, him and freaking Eichenberg, they've got to be special teams gamers. And then when they get those reps, they got to make the most of it. I've done a lot on Amari Gainer before, so I'm not going to get into him right now. But last year was his first really solid year, and now he comes into this year. But I like a lot of Amari Gainer. I think, again, it's going to be same with Eichenberg. Well, same with everybody, but how strong is their want to? I have zero concerns about Eichenberg, and I don't have concerns about Amari either. His journey to being a superstar, or to being a starter and a star, a little bit more difficult than Eichenberg, but I like him a lot, and I know that the Raiders do as well. Then the next guy I got making this squad is Jalen Smith. I like this guy. I like what he's done. He's another guy where the Raiders roll a dice. Can he get back to where he used to be? Great leader, brings really brings a presence about him, and he understands what the game expects of him, and he does it. Has played at a very high level. I really like Jalen Smith at all. I thought this was another classic Spy Tech get. Very little risk, high gain. And you know what? You may say, Hondo, how can this team make a Super Bowl with all these players that are, high gain, low risk? I don't think anyone rational thinks they're going to make a Super Bowl, other than my wife. But she thinks they're going to make a Super Bowl every year. But I still think you get one of these guys to hit, one, and it can flip a season. You get one of these young guys to step out early and make a jump. Big things can happen, but I like Jalen Smith. And then the last linebacker, I think it's going to be a battle between Michael Barrett and the rookie Cody Lindenberg. I think Barrett will win it. I am very familiar with Barrett. He, as you know, I'm a Spartan, but he was a Wolverine. But I have so many friends that work at Michigan, are part of the Michigan football family, great friends of mine, and they rave about Barrett and they love him. And one guy who's very familiar with the Patrick Graham system, that's part of the Michigan football family, told me Barrett is going to mix perfectly well with Patrick Graham. So I have Barrett making the 53 man. Then you come to safety, where this is a guy, since the Raiders got him, I'm driving that train. Choo choo. IPM. This is why I did that, projecting the 53 man roster. I remember when I talked about him and said, I think he's going to be a 53 man guy. He's going to have to develop. He's not there yet, but he has the intangibles. Now look at him. He's a bona fide, legit player that's knocking at the door of stardom. I love IPM. I love the kid. I love the character. I love the work ethic. I love the style. There is nothing about IPM that I don't like. 110% believe in this kid. If he was the stock market, I'm a buyer. I love his vision. He has such a quick twitch. If you watch him, he plays safety like Max plays defensive end. You know, Max will just make a move. He just reads it and goes. He doesn't have to think. IPM, he thought a lot when he came into the league. But you could see that twitch, that quick. If you've seen the new Mission Impossible movie, then think about at the end when he says to the pickpocket, you've got to grab the light bulb because it's about being fast with your hand. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm not giving anything away. Go see it. It was fantastic. Go see it. Trust me. Take your wife, take your girlfriend, take your boyfriend on a date night. Take your husband. Trust me. I took my wife. That's what I love about my wife, man. She loves going to that kind of stuff. And remember how he talked about how that pickpocket, though, had to have the quick reflexes to grab that light. Okay. That's IPM. There's an old saying where I'm from in the Midwest. That kid can stop on a dime and give you 9 cents change. I am a IPM guy all of the way. He is knocking at the door of superstardom. And if you knew him, he's impossible not to like. So incredibly humble. He's a lot like Brock Bowers in that way. Very soft spoken, not on the field, but very humble, very good human. His parents, in the best of my knowledge, I've never met him. Man, they raised a fine young man. I can guarantee you, if you asked his parents how proud of you, they'd say, well, football, we're happy for him. That was his dream, but we're proud of the human he is. He is just a top notch kid. He's a great kid. And trust me on this one. That's a young man that has the potential of being a superstar. You're looking for a new Raider jersey to buy, just go get IPM. All right, next. I think it's going to be a battle here between Trey Taylor. I think they're going to keep 4 safeties, Thomas Harper, or Chris Smith. I think Trey Taylor will make it. I'm a believer in Trey Taylor. First of all, he's one of our heroes and from the academy, and great kid. There's nothing about Trey Taylor not to like. A lot like IPM as far as character, integrity, hard worker. I think he's going to make the 53. I think he's going to show up and show out. I'm expecting big things from this young man. He can play in the National Football League. Now, we talk about want to. He's got to make a step now because you say, well, what about it not being a money year? It's not. but he's battling for a spot. And so if it's not a money year, I don't know that the Raiders can keep him on the practice squad. Somebody may grab him. I think there's a chance they might early, but I don't think they keep him on the practice squad late in the year. But I think it's a battle again between Trey Taylor, Thomas Harper, Chris Smith. Harper's a guy, he's got some really unique skills. Some really unique skills. I like Thomas Harper. And but I think the upside on Trey Taylor, if he comes in, stays healthy, he's got to be healthy. Remember, the best ability is availability. And one injury can knock these guys out. But Harper's that guy, man. He just keeps coming. He is relentless. I think I can. I think I can. He plays that way. Chris Smith, I love this kid. This is a money year for him. So he has to come in right now and produce right now. No excuses. It's been 2 years. And he has to come in and he has to make a statement right now. I am ready to be who I need to be. This kid has to absolutely come in. And Chris Smith, he can't afford a slow start. In fact, I'm going to be doing a series as we get closer to training camp on guys who can't afford slow starts in camp. Chris Smith's one of them. And this is just the reality of the situation. Great kid. I think he can play in the NFL. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to be available, and he is going to have to shine really quick, or his time in the NFL, at least with the Raiders, will greatly be diminished. Now, we come into another guy who's obviously going to make the team. He is a star. I'm going to say this to you because there is no revisionist history with me. I wanted, and I know the Raiders wanted, to bring Trayvon Merrick back. A guy in his second year. He's a guy you drafted. He was playing so well. And then someone came and offered him. Okay, I want to be careful here. Market value is what you can get paid. And so to say somebody overpaid, I need to give you in context. I talked with multiple teams and, what do you think Merrick's value is? And all of them are right within the same area. Then somebody comes and goes several percentages way over. And according to what the league teams thought his value was, he got way overpaid. Now, good for him. Good for him. And where he went, had plenty of cap space. And they thought, man, here's a great young player going into his second deal. Yeah, we'll pay that because by the time we get to the end of the deal, he's cheap, meaning inexpensive. Not that he's a cheap person. So if you would have told me, if I was John Spytek, and you'd have said to me, do you want Merrick? Yes. Okay, but do you want Merrick? Yes. But if they would have said, okay, quit saying yes so fast. Here's what you're going to have to pay Merrick, or you can have Jeremy Chin for this. I'd have probably went Chin. I say that. I don't know. Let's just say it would have been difficult for me to not take Chin. Because when you are a general manager, you're constantly looking at the salary cap. Yeah, you know what? I probably would have paid Trayvon. I probably would have. Just because he's going into his second year. He's a guy you picked. I probably would have paid Trayvon. I know in the past I would have said no, but I'm so impressed with Chin. It went from I would have paid Chin to, the more I think about it and step back a little bit from free agency and watch what the Raiders have done with the cap they have, I probably would have paid Merrick. But Chin is no slouch, and this is not a step backwards at all. In fact, he's a little bit more vocal. I had one person tell me It's different because they were used to Trayvon back there, and Chin's a little bit more vocal. This was a great signing. To me, it's a wash, so I don't have a problem with it at all. And he's a great player that they got. He's a very good player that they got at a very good price. And then lastly, Lonnie Johnson, I think will make this team. He is a special teams savant. And I don't think he's a starter, not saying that he is. I think that's clearly going to be IPM and Chin. But I like Lonnie Johnson on special teams. He does leave some stuff to be desired on safety. However, with what the Raiders paid him and what they want his role to be, again, no risk, massive upside. And every year, teams need players like Johnson. And when you hit, God bless you, you hit. And when it fails, and guess what? It's going to on several of these guys. It's okay, no harm, no foul. You're going and getting people who've at least demonstrated at some point what they can do, and you're hoping for a repeat. Those are the safeties. And that takes us through the defense. Now, you're probably thinking tomorrow's third part of this series is just the special teams. No, it is. I mean, because there's only a couple of them and you know who they are. It is literally a breakdown of the roster, discussing the roster, and spending a lot of time on the roster. So don't miss tomorrow. I appreciate you all very much. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Thank you for watching today's podcast, part 2 of the 53-man roster projection.